Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Also, a reminder, it really would help me out if you like, comment, and hit the subscribe button below. All right, today we are going to talk about Teeth, a new coming-of-age musical comedy. This is playing Off-Broadway, and I have heard of the movie, but I don't believe I've ever seen it. So I really went into this not quite knowing what to expect, other than I knew the main premise, and I'm going to go ahead and give it away, is that there's a woman who has teeth in her vagina. Now, I saw things at New World Stage that I never thought I would see in the theater. This is a very dirty, dirty show. It should be rated maybe R, X. I mean, the content is very dark and very twisted. It is interesting that it's called a musical comedy because a lot of the performances were being played in a dramatically truthful way, where it wasn't a comedic performance. And there are some scenes that are so disturbing and so sad that there's no way to make them comedic. It's awful people doing awful things to each other. So I would call this a musical horror. And a lot of the laughs didn't come out of jokes. It came out of shock value. You know, I'm going to sing about how wet my vagina is. So they'd sing these words that you would never hear sung in a musical theater song, and that would get a laugh. This show is about a girl named Dawn who belongs to this extreme religious group that are focusing on women's chastity being the most important thing and not having sex until you're married. And some of the humor comes from these girls wrestling against their urges. The show begins with a song called Precious Gift that really establishes this world, does a good job of that. But then I felt like we know what this show is about. We know that this girl has teeth in her vagina. It's going to be a horror film, and we want to get to that part of it. This show is one act, but almost 2 hours in length. And I feel like we spent maybe the first 45 minutes just talking about the abstinence and the chastity. At one point, they put an empty chair on the stage because there's been this girl that got pregnant, and they're all upset about that because it meant she had sex before marriage. And so they have a moment where they all yell at the empty chair. It was very reminiscent of Clint Eastwood putting that empty chair during one of those Republican conventions and talking to the empty chair. But, you know, this is a character that we never meet. And so we're spending a lot of time talking about her when I would rather be learning about who these characters are. We do eventually get a song from Dawn that I think is her I Am I Want song, but it's called Shame in My Body. Dawn seems to not really know what's happening with her body, and she's kind of discovering it as the audience is discovering it. There's also the character Brad, her brother, who got his finger bit by her vagina when he was very young. And for inexplicable reasons, he's hanging on to this fact that he got his finger bit so long ago, and he's very angry at his sister. I didn't understand his motivation. He goes on the dark web using VR goggles and meets this group of incels who has a godfather who's got an Australian, who's got an Aussie accent, but then his VR goggles get thrown away, but yet he can still communicate with these people. I was really confused by that. There's a lot of the characters seem like really nice guys until all of a sudden they're raping Dawn. And that was just confusing to me too. And I guess maybe the lesson they're trying to say is that all men, even if they appear nice, are really inherently dangerous people. But as a viewer, we start to like a character, and then they do terrible things, and then as an audience, we feel betrayed. We feel lied to. And there's this one character, the gay guy, when it happens to him, first of all, it comes out of left field. I didn't believe it. The audience just audibly went, "Ah, we were so upset that you betrayed our trust by taking a character that we liked and then just making him awful." They tried to explain the origins of the teeth, and the gynecologist, who also treats Dawn very badly, screams out, "Dentata!" And then they look that up and they realize it's like some Greek goddess who had teeth in her vagina. And I was like, why did he scream that? Why? A lot of it was so strange to me. I realized as we were wrapping up this show, and let me say, I liked the last 15 minutes of the show because this show is ostensibly a show about women finding their own empowerment, which I think is great. And there's a moment where all of these women who originally were focusing on their chastity, they come into their power and they become dominant. And that part I loved. Another confusion I had is the mystery of Dawn's mother, who was married to the pastor, but yet they never consummated their relationship, and her mother used to be a prostitute. Dawn asks if maybe it's hereditary, if maybe her mother had teeth, but they never answer that question. So I was left wondering it too. I was like, why does she have the teeth? Did the mother have the teeth? Is that why the pastor wouldn't sleep with her? Why on earth would the pastor want to marry a woman who is a prostitute if he's so religious? I just was so confused throughout this whole musical. In the first half of the show, the women were very nasty towards each other. And for a show that's really about female empowerment, I didn't think it was necessary. And I'm sure the idea behind that is that maybe men are causing women to be bad to each other. I don't know. Just stay on theme, please. This show, who was written by Anna K. Jacobs and Michael R. Jackson of Strange Loop fame. I was disappointed knowing that Michael R. Jackson worked on this because I loved the songs in Strange Loop. His voice in Strange Loop is so unusual, so different than other things I'd seen. And I felt like in this show, a lot of the songs were falling into a kind of typical rock style. The lyrics weren't nearly as clever as they were in Strange Loop. In a lot of these rock songs, he would write a really fast lyric, and then when it's amplified with the guitars, I just can't understand the lyric at all. That was a problem in Strange Loop, and it was also a problem in this show. So lesson to writers out there. If you're writing a loud rock song and you want to have fast lyrics, you either got to take the guitars out and give us a quieter moment, or write lyrics that aren't so dense. So let me wrap this up. Teeth, the musical. Not disappointed that I saw this. I felt this was an important show for me to see because it really pushed the limits of the kind of material that I thought you could put on a stage in front of an audience. So that was kind of amazing to see. And also there were really some amazing moments in the show. Also, I loved seeing Andy Carl and Elise Allen Lewis up there doing their thing. If you like the horror genre and you like the idea of getting splashed with blood, then get a poncho and sit on the front row. This is a crazy show. So if that is your vibe, go check out Teeth at New World Stages.
Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged, keep me amused with what's in front of me, 'cause I don't wanna be bored and confused.